Hello everyone, welcome back to part 2 of the charm wannabes. And if you didn't watch part 1, the link is below. You really should go see how I got to this stage. So I moved over all the stuff that is not going to be worked on today. And that's these little gems that I'm going to turn into centers for the flowers. If you watch part 1, you saw me working on them. And while I was waiting for the camera to load up the first part of the video, I was gluing them in. They're still kind of gooey, but so that's what they look like. I'm going to have some extra stones. I have one empty one here because I popped the whole thing out. And some of these were falling apart as I was doing them. So they have to be re-glued back in. But I'm going to fill this one with pearls just to see how it looks. And I'm not going to do these black ones until I see how this one looks, because if it looks nice, I may pop all that out and do all with pearls. So that I will show you on Friday during my follow-up. This little pile here is my weird stuff and my 2 alligator clips. And that's going into another section because there is some fun stuff that we can do with this afterwards, but not till later on in the year. So this one had a lot of glue on the back. I just kept the glue here just to show you. It's this real crusty, hard glue. And while I was waiting for the camera, I just took an emery board and scraped at it until I got it sort of flat. It's not perfect, but that's okay. And I decided this one isn't so bad. So now I'm putting it back into this bin. This one, I tried to scrape the glue off, but it's really stuck on there, so I'll have to work on it a little bit more. But then I noticed that because this is fabric, I noticed that this was kind of a little bit off kilter, and it's fabric anyway, so it's gonna, it's gonna get dirty and not look so nice. So I started to pry with the screwdriver, and I'll just really should work on a flat surface for this, but I just started to lift this out. I don't know what's going to happen when I lift it. We will find out. And you have to be careful when you're doing this stuff, definitely. Okay, so I've lifted it a little bit. So now I'm going to take my needle nose pliers and just wedge underneath there and see if I can't pull it off. Yeah, oh yeah. Okay, so this was one of those button covers that they've covered with the fabric. I'm not going to probably be able to salvage this. It doesn't look that nice anyway, so I'm gonna discard this. I don't discard very much, and you know that. And I'm left with this blobby mess. I see there's a hole here. So this, oh, it's like a button almost. It's like a button. I wonder if I can use my pokey tool, and because there's 4 holes in here, so maybe I can push the glue out or pick it out this way. That's why I was saying that each time you do these, you get something new every single time. There's no guarantee that you'll always have the same type unless you just don't play with these things. Careful, Kim, you're gonna jab yourself yet. I'm not bleeding. So yeah, you do have to be cautious when you're doing this stuff. It's very easy to hurt yourself. And this is probably not the best tool to use, but off camera, it will work just fine when you're not around, and I can let out some blue words and get her done. Okay, I will work on this off camera, but it is starting to look like a button. So there's 4 holes here. So this could be a frame that just gets filled in with something else. So I will save this one for follow-up Friday to show you. So adding that to the pile there. And now I'm just going to get it out of the way so we have more room to play. So now comes the fun parts, is turning all of this into charms. And no, we're not going to do this all in one day, but I'm going to start out with a couple of pieces and get them started. So the first one I'm going to play with is one of these that had the little holes in it, and it's got the gems along the side. I want to turn this into a dangle. I think it was at one time because I can feel a bit of a rough spot right there. So I'm going to turn this into a dangle. And there are many ways of turning it into dangle, whether we build up a back for it or whether we create it with wire. And this one is going to get created with wire. So I'm just going to take my wire. I think I can probably, yeah, I can pull it out of the roll here. And I'm going to cut off about a 6-inch piece. So about like that. And you can see it's bent. It really doesn't matter. I'll straighten it out a little bit. And I'm going to make a spiral, a flat spiral. So taking my needle nose pliers, I'm going to make a tiny little loop, just a tiny, tiny little loop, going right into the circle. If you can see that. Knocking my tools off here. So you can see it's like a little spiral or just a little loop on the end. And now I'm going to take my needle nose pliers and holding on to that loop, I'm going to start to wrap the wire around to make a spiral. So the needle nose pliers are what's keeping it flat. And at first it takes a few seconds to go around it because it's not, you know, it's so tiny. Now, I make spirals all the time. Sometimes, you know, you're working with wire and you don't know how much you're going to need and you cut off too much. Well, those leftover pieces that you don't use, I turn into spirals because I use them in all different kinds of sizes. So a 3-inch spiral is, of course, smaller. This I'm using about 6 inches of wire, maybe about 5.5. But now you can see I've just been going around and round. And it's flat. It's perfectly flat, but I'm just going to keep going around till I get to the end of the wire or close to the end. And you don't have to worry if your wire is not perfectly straight, and you don't have to worry if your spiral's not perfectly straight. The idea is to keep it as tight as you can to the circle so that there's no gaps. Although gaps, depending on when you're using it, gaps are a good thing too. But I'm just going around the circle, and it's the needle nose pliers that are keeping it flat, holding it flat and just bending this with my other hand around the wire, around the circle. Just going in a perfect spiral circle all the way around. Hope you can see. It's getting a little bit bigger there. And just going till I'm almost out of wire. And it really doesn't matter if it's a loose one or if it's a tight one. But ideally, if you can make it reasonably tight like this, by just going around, following the wire, keeping it flat with the needle nose pliers until you run out of wire. Or very close, not quite. We're going to stop at just about 1/4 of an inch around. So if you can see that, that's where I've stopped. Okay. Now this piece here, I am now going to take my round nose pliers and holding onto the spiral, I'm going to grab that little end and I'm going to hold it and roll it back into the spiral to make a loop. And I want to make sure that it's closed. So you can see now I have a spiral and the end wire I turned around and rolled it back. So there are no sharp edges on here anywhere and it's reasonably flat. You can look at it sideways and just take your needle nose pliers and just flatten it a little bit just to make sure it's reasonably flat. But that can now be what dangles your piece, or it can be a charm in itself. Okay, because I use a lot of these as charms, just like that. But now I'm going to turn this piece over. I know that there's a bit of a sharp edge here, so I'm going to now glue this spiral. I've given myself lots of things to glue with, and I'm going to glue it onto the back of this. So using my goop and my toothpick, or my E6000 and toothpick, I'm going to put just a little bit of glue on the end of my toothpick. Now, normally I do all this at one time, so that I'm not opening and closing the glue all the time. But for this video, I will just put... Now I can feel the rough edge there, and that's where I want the top of the loop to sit. So I'm just going to spread a little bit of glue on here. It's just like spreading peanut butter. And I'm going to take my hot glue, and I'm just going to put a little bit of hot glue. You know, you have to be pretty fast. And that's just so that it will give that instant catch. And I'm going to lay my spiral on top, and it's going to ooze out a little bit. So just slowly press it in place. And where you have the hole in the center, the glue is going to come out a little bit. So I just take my toothpick and just scrape off that little bit of glue. And I will leave this to sit and harden. What's good is the hot glue has secured it. So when I put it down, it's not going to slide off, you know, from the glue still being soft, the E6000. But the hot glue is what just caught the wire enough. I mean, if you just put hot glue, you would eventually be able to pop it right off. But the hot glue is what holds it in place enough so that the glue can set. And then you don't have to worry that this is going to come off. And you now have a charm that has a loop on it that is ready to dangle from something. Now, if you wanted this to be a charm that has the loop on the top and you want to dangle something from the bottom, then you would make another one of these to go on the bottom. You can make them a double spiral, like a figure 8. You can do that, but you need to know where the center of the wire is. So you need to start with about 12 inches of wire and kind of roll it up the other way. It's complicated. It's just so much easier to put it down as a separate piece. So, but for this one, I'm going to let this be the dangling end. So it doesn't matter, you know, we're going to have beads up here or chain or something. This is going to be the end result. Okay, so it's going to be a dangle from something else. It's a charm. So I'm going to leave it done as it is. Now you can see I've just dropped it and it's not going anywhere because that hot glue is enough to hold it in place. So that one is done. So just to show you that again, let's find another one that we can add. Don't want to do the same one again. So let's, this one's a little bit different. Let's see. Let's add on to this one. Now this has got a little bit of glue residue here. I'm just going to take my emery board and scratch that back a little bit. Just so it's a little flatter. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing with this one. I'm going to make a silver spiral, and I'm using about 6 inches of wire. Usually I just pull this right out of the container, but so 6 inches for me is about like that, using the length of my finger. Now you can make them smaller. You don't have to make them that large. If you're working with something smaller, this is the method I use, is to use the spiral. So taking my round nose pliers, I'm going to make a little loop first just to get it started. And then taking my needle nose, I'm going to hold that flat So it gives you something to hold on to and start to bend the wire. And I'm just wrapping it around itself, making a big spiral circle. And going around this. And if you make these ahead of time, you can have a whole bucket of these that you can use them as a charm, or you can use them to create a charm. This is great to use on the back side of dominoes, on the back side of game pieces, flat back game pieces. Even a checker can be turned into a charm, like a red or a black checker, just by gluing one of these on the back side of it. A bingo chip, although a bingo chip, you can actually drill a hole in it. You can use your crocodile and drill a hole. Okay, so you can see I've been wrapping it around. Does that show okay? I've got, so you can see the, sorry, these are magnetic. I've had them for so long they've become magnetic. So you can see how it's just wrapping around, and I'm going to go right close to the edge. So holding it again, I'm just bending the wire into place. And I'm not putting very much pressure on this. It's just holding it. But it's easy enough to bend the wire because it's not a heavy gauge. So 20 gauge wire is what we're using. And then when I have that little piece, just that little thing that's left over, I'm going to take my round nose pliers and make a loop going the opposite direction. And rolling it back into itself to close it off. So there's my loop. Now this could be a dangle from here. I would just use a jump ring in between it, and the two of these this can dangle from there. But that's not what we're doing today. We're just making each piece with a loop, some type of a loop. Okay. So taking this piece now, I have to decide which way do I want it to be. Do I want it to be in the center here? Or do I want it this way? Depends on how you want this to dangle. I'm going to make it in the center so that I have another spot down here. So again, taking my goop, my E6000, not goop. I have E6000 today. And just putting a little bit on a toothpick, putting it where I want the piece to sit, the spiral to sit. Taking a little bit of hot glue, putting some hot glue on there around it, just enough to catch this spiral. So you do have to be a little bit prepared, and pressing it into place. Now I don't want to go too far down because that had a little bit of a, I can let go of that now. And then taking my toothpick, I'm just going to scrape off that excess glue. So now you can see that I have a loop at the top here of my piece, and it's quite decorative on the back. But now I want to put one at the bottom so that I can dangle something from the bottom, because this is going to be something that's attached to the top here. Oop, I just got to move that over a little bit. And then I'm going to have one that you can attach things from the bottom. So I'm going to make one more loop. I think I can open this right up. Yeah, I have to open it right up. I don't know why it's not opening. It's probably got a lock on it or something that I don't know of. Okay, I'm going to pause the camera just for a second. Okay, I don't know what went down there, but it's never going to happen again. Taking the wire right off of there, that's going into the recycling bin, and we are good to go. Don't ask how long that took. All right, so I'm going to make another loop again using my round nose pliers, and then using my needle nose, I'm going to start making the spiral one more time. And just slowly bending it around the circle. I use these for so many applications, not just for jewelry. I use them for making hooks. And like I said, I use these as charms. Sometimes I will put a fancy stone in them so that they become the charm itself. So the longer we do these jewelry series, you will see more and more things that will become, that these get used for. Okay, just going around almost to the end here. Okay, so there's my charm, or my spiral. Going back to the round nose pliers, and I'm just going to roll this back in to make a loop in the opposite direction, closing it up so that it's now nice and tight to use as the charm loop. Sorry, I made that a little bit crooked. Now the light I use on my table to light my table is also a magnifier. And when I'm doing jewelry by myself, it's on a long arm, but right now it's above the camera. So I will bring it down so that I can see through the magnifier while I'm working, because my eyesight is not as good as it used to be. So I have to go back and check my little loop here to make sure that it's closed, because sometimes I can't always see with the lighting if it's closed or not. So that is something you'd have to check as well. So now I'm going to put one down at the bottom here. And the nice thing about this is that it looks quite decorative. You don't have to worry about the backside showing because it looks nice. So again, I'm going to take my E6000. And my toothpick is, oh, there it is on the napkin. And just close that up. Let go of the piece, Kim. Did I just lose my glue? I did. Oh yeah, there it is. Okay. You have to be fast with this glue because it is very thin while it's working, or while it's soft. And that's why I usually don't worry about closing my glue each time when I'm doing several pieces at once. Okay, so I'm just putting the glue there. You get to know what not to do. And then a little bit of glue around the piece of the hot glue. And then pressing my spiral into the glue and pushing down just a little bit. And I didn't put as much this time, so I don't have it oozing out of the hole on the center. Okay, so this now will sit to dry. So you can see I have the spiral from the top and from the bottom, and when you turn this over, I now have a loop here and a loop at the top. And it's probably a little bit crooked, and that's okay. Like if you look at it from a side, this probably should be bent forward a little bit, but once it's hardened, then I can adjust all that. And once it's hardened, you will see how good this glue works. And the best way to describe how well it works is when you've made a mistake and you want to take something off of something, you'll find out how hard it is to pull it off. So it's got a little bit of elasticity to the glue. So it allows for you to bend it a little bit, and it'll bounce back into place. But it will hold very, very well. So, and in this case, I see that this loop is a little bit crooked. I will just bend it forward once this is dry. I don't want to disturb it right now. Like if you look at it from this side of it, you can see it's a little bit crooked. I could have been a little bit straighter there, but it's already starting to set because of the hot glue, so I don't want to disturb it. I will bend the loop backwards a little bit with my pliers afterwards, and it'll be just fine. So now this is capable of having something hang down from it as well as dangle from above. So there's how you would do a double one if you needed to do a double. So I'm going to do one more, and that's this gold one. Now, this gold one has this nice little platform here, which is where the earring would have come up and hit that platform. You know, well, your ear would be in between that platform and the earring back. But it's a perfect little spot for one of those spirals to sit on. So I'm going to do one with the spiral. And so in this case, I want the gold wire, which is right here. And this will be the last spiral that I show you this time around. Now, sometimes you run out of wire and you need an alternative to a spiral. I've got one. Okay, so I'm just wrapping this around the little loop. I don't have to say it again, do I? You guys get it? If not, just go back to the beginning of this video and you will see how I've just going around the circle until you run out of wire. And it takes, it takes a little practice. You'll have some wonky donkey ones, and that's okay because even the wonky donkey ones work. And just going around as tight as you can. But it's not the end of the world if they're not perfectly round or perfectly tightened. It just makes it easier to not have so much glue oozing out at the same time. Like if it's just coming out of the little hole in the center, it's so much easier to work with. So now taking that end of the wire and my round nose pliers, and rolling it back into the spiral. Making sure to make a nice closed loop for a jump ring. So there's my piece. And now I'm just going to put glue on this little platform here. And spreading the glue. Now this is a smaller surface. And putting a little bit of hot glue around to just enough to set this spiral so that it won't move. And the idea is you don't want the spiral showing up above the piece. And any glue residue you can peel off afterwards. Yeah, Kim, afterwards, not now. Okay, so that's going to slowly set. And you can see now that we have a loop at the top that this can dangle from. Now, if I wanted to put one at the bottom, you can see this is a little bit more caved in, and that's still doable because it doesn't matter about the spiral. You just want the loop that's sticking out a little bit on the end here. So it is certainly doable, and you may want to build it up with a little bit of glue or build it up with a little bit of hot glue on the sides, but it's the E6000 or goop that's going to hold the spiral in place. So either way, if you make like a little circle of hot glue to make sort of like a pool so that you can put the goop glue or E6000 in the center and then rest your piece on top. But it's not bad to actually put one right on here, even though it'll be going into the piece instead of flat across the top, because it's just the loop that you want anyway. So this is fine the way it is. I'm going to use this as an end dangle, so I don't need to have another one at the bottom, but you certainly can. So I'm going to set that over there upside down. But supposing now I've got this one, and supposing I've run out of wire. I don't have any wire at home, and I want to make a fancy dangle. We all have these. It may not be the right color, but if you phone a friend who drinks beer, you might be able to get a gold one. And you can always paint them gold. You don't have to have gold caps, but these work just fine for dangles as well. So because this has got black in it, I'm going to use the black one. And I have flattened these through my Sizzix machine, and I will be showing you that later on as well. I have flattened these in my Sizzix machine so there are no sharp edges, and it's very easy to do. But you can also put this in a vise and flatten it in a vise. You can take it outside with a hammer and hammer it flat. It's just easier to work with when it's flat. But these are just your pull tabs from your pop bottles and your beer cans and liqueur drinks and stuff like that. So I'm going to use the black one. Now, on this black one, it has a more finished top, and then the part that would have pulled off of the container, it's not as nice looking. So that's the part that I'm going to glue to the back of the earring. And again, I'm going to use that flat spot to glue it down so that it's sitting. This will sit in the center of this little platform that's on the back here. And if I was putting it on the bottom, it would probably sit more into the middle. I may have to do some adjusting, but it's certainly doable. So it's another option for you to play with that way. So I'm going to use this flat platform here for this to rest onto. So now, because I don't want a big blob of glue in the center, I'm going to put glue around the outside edges of the bottom half of this tab. So I'm just putting a little bit of glue. And I'm just resting or putting some out all around along the bottom part of the tab. Hope you can see that. And so holding the earring, now I'm going to put a little bit of hot glue around that little platform that's sitting there. Now, not every piece of jewelry is going to have a platform. Some of them are going to be much flatter than this. But I'm just putting the glue there so that I can hold it in place and then just rest this into that hot glue, and that will secure it while I'm waiting for the glue to harden. So we know it's not going to move around much. And now, doesn't that look gorgeous? And so now I have another dangle that's ready to go. Now, when you rest these down, you don't rest them down this way because the glue is still loose, and you could glue it to your project. So do have it sitting this way. So anything that has a loop can become another method for you to make a dangle. And a perfect example of that is maybe you have an oval die cut that you've cut out of cardstock. Are you getting that? You can put 2 holes in it or 1 hole in it for dangling, and the rest would be glued to the back of your piece. And we are going to be playing with that idea as well, but that'll be later on. So I'm just giving you options to now see things differently that you can glue down to your jewelry piece to make that loop. And you would never know that that was a pull tab. If you find that this is too unattractive on the back side, then using your die cutting machine or hand cutting a circle, this might not be the right size, but oh yeah, in this case it's perfect. You can glue one of these on the back. This is just cardstock that I've cut out. You can glue this onto the back and have a nice finish to it if that bothers you, that look. You can also glue, no, I don't know if I have a second black tab here or not. Maybe I don't. I'll just explain and show you with a silver one. So I could glue one of these at this end as well so that it becomes a double dangle. Once you've glued these on and the glue is set, and if you wanted to cover it, you could use this to cover. And you can also use this now to become a journal cover tie, because you've got a big enough loop here that you can put a ribbon through here and knot it, and another one on that side, and it becomes a decorative piece that you can use to tie your journal closed, a decoration. But we are not working on that today. We're just working on dangles. So this is one that you can make. I love this one. Isn't that gorgeous? Now, that was a happy accident, but it worked just well. So again, the tabs, like let's take this same piece that we had over here, and this one I put the little loop on top. This one I'm going to use this silver pull tab and make, oh, is that backwards? No, that's the right way, yeah. And make a little piece to go on top of that one. See, there's a little hair on that. Okay, so easy peasy. I just take this now, and I don't like them to stick out really, really high unless I know right from the get-go that I'm going to put some fibers, and there's a little hair or something on here. I just got to cut it off. Something got caught in here. I normally like to put them quite low so that it's just a little bit of an opening at the top. Unless I know I'm going to use it for fibers or ribbon or something, then I would put it higher so that I maximize on that hole at the top. And if the color is not perfect, you can always paint it. Just get out your acrylic paints and paint it. Or you can bling it up a little bit by adding some gems and things around it. Lots of fun ways to decorate even these. Somewhere here, yes. Actually, I have a piece already cut. I could go as far as gluing this around, going around the whole thing. And of course, you're not going to see this as easily. But I can glue this around so it's a little bit more sparkly and not so noticeable that it's a pull tab. But let's get it glued to the piece first. Okay, so I need a little bit of E6000 on here first. And we don't need as much because we're just working on the little edges of the surface here. Okay, and then those little stones are at the bottom, so I want, there's the sharp piece there. So I'm going to put a little bit of hot glue there to catch it. And you do have to be fast because you don't want the hot glue setting. And I'm just going to smear it into there and bring it down far enough that you don't see the whole tab. And now I'm going to, these are plastic, and they have little threads in them. So I'm going to just put some glue on 2 of them. And catch it into that tab along the top ring. And I probably should do this after this is hardened, but I want you to see what I'm doing. Okay, and then doing the next couple. I'm just going to put a little bit of glue on this piece. And the nice thing about this having the threads on here is that you can maneuver this. This is just that piece of plastic bling. Now I'm going to need 2 more, so I'm just going to cut it where I need the next 2. And putting a little bit of hot glue. I'm now going to stick these into the hot glue, just bringing them around and easing them in. I may have to go back and adjust the first ones there. But this just gives you, oh, see, I've actually popped this off of the hot glue. And that's why you want to wait and make sure your hot glue is holding it and that the piece sets. And once this is hardened and dry, then I can pick away the little glue strings that are showing. But you don't even know that it's a tab once we're finished. And so this can now dangle from something. Or I could do the same thing and put another one on the other side. It might be a little bit tight, but I think I could fit another one in here. And then it can become a piece that you can use for... Quit picking him. Don't touch it. It's so easy to want to go and pick at that, but I don't want it to move right now. So I could put another one on this side, and it can be something that I can tie a ribbon through and put my use it as a journal cover tie or something. Yeah, it's going to bug me forever, that little piece. So I'm just going to snip it there. Okay. So that is another method, is using the pull tab. So you've got the spiral and you've got the pull tab. Now, how is my time? We're getting a little high there in time. I don't know how much more I can show you. We might have to take this to another video. I'm going to continue to, well, I'm going to stop the camera and see where we're at, and then I'm going to come right back. Just a sec. Okay, we are at 45 minutes, so I don't really think I can show you much more in this video, but you've learned 2 styles today. We are going to have to continue this on to next week, but I would love some feedback from you. I thought I would get a lot more done, but unfortunately not. So the only ones I'm going to do are ones that I still want to keep as a spiral, or using the spiral or the pull tab method. And those ones I'll just set off to the side. I won't actually do them until we're all finished. But the rest will have to wait until next week. Unfortunately, it takes time to show you this stuff. So that's it. That's all. I hope I've given you enough to get started. You got the spiral method and the bottle cap or tab method, and we will show you some new designs next week. That's it. That's all. Have yourself a very creative day and a creative week. Tomorrow is Wednesday. It'll be Happy Mail Day. Thursday will be Thrifty Canucks Day, and Friday will be follow-up. I will do a couple more pieces in here for follow-up, but that's about it. The rest will wait until next week. That's it. That's all. Bye for now.